Welcome back, friends. We're here again with another impressions video. This time we're going to be taking a look at the G.I. Joe Classified Series Storm Shadow version 2, which is his version 1 G.I. Joe costume, version 1 Ninja Force costume, but his overall version 2 costume, which I know that got very confusing. But let's not waste any more time with me confusing you. Let's jump right into this and get straight into first impressions. Alright guys, back again for another impressions video, and up first we've got G.I. Joe Classified Series Storm Shadow, and I don't know why I said first because we're only doing one today. However, wanted to give a shot at this one. This is the first impression. This is actually the one that they consider version 2 of Storm Shadow, which is his first G.I. Joe uniform when he defected from Cobra to G.I. Joe. Some people like to call it the L camouflage or the T camouflage, and I've never understood what the camouflage on here is supposed to be. The pattern is just weird and weird colored. But for me, this is one of my two definitive versions of Storm Shadow. As a collector, I've always been into, especially with G.I. Joe, I've always been into the heroes, and this goes for any property really, but I really enjoy the hero aspect of the character. So that's usually what I collect. I usually don't even collect villains very much. They look cool and stuff, and you have to have them, but I've always been a fan of the good guys, so to speak. And this is one that I liked immediately because he was a ninja, and I currently have the Cobra Ninja version on my shelf because he did become a Joe and I needed some representation, and I missed the Arctic Mission or the Ninja Force version 2 costume for Storm Shadow, which is version 3 altogether, but version 2 for Ninja Force. But this was his Ninja Force version 1 / Storm Shadow version 2 figure, so I had to get this one. This one will be replacing the Cobra outfit one on my shelf. With the G.I. Joe boxes, the width is one of the things I really like about them because they could fit on my shelves better when I kept them closed box. I don't do that anymore, so kind of doesn't mean much for me at this point. However, I still have these. I mean, I got rid of all the box ones, but I still have the loose ones, and I do like to point out the box here anyway. That it's very bland. There's not much to it. I think one side, yeah, this side will have artwork. And if this artwork wrapped around to here like it used to on the first boxes, that would be pretty cool, but it's just so bland and plain on the front. And I'm not putting them on a bookshelf collecting. If I was and it was this way, that would be kind of cool to see, but I'm not, so not much to it. The character and a lot of wording on the back. This side is more tech spec stuff. So, overall, good looking figure. I'm kind of down for this one just because it's going to be replacing my other one. So I'm happy to get this one and get on the shelf. It's G.I. Joe Classified. I don't expect a lot of just super different wow factor that's going to make me say anything more than this about it when we do the lasting impressions. But, nothing bad here. Very good as always. But let's just get into it and get to the lasting impressions. So typically when we do these impressions videos, we don't do too many comparisons. I'm going to today because this is a true swap out for me. As I said, I originally bought the Cobra version of Storm Shadow to have on my shelf just because he came with G.I. Joe later. This is his version 1 G.I. Joe costume, or version 2 for overall Storm Shadow, but I want to do a little bit of a quick comparison between the two because there is some difference, especially with the legs and stuff. They're not exactly this exact same setup, so I had a little bit more trouble trying to pose the new one than I did the old one. The old one had a little bit better joints and stood in place better, the Cobra version. And the Cobra version, I could get down into this more crouched, sneaky stance to be firing his arrow, whereas I went with a higher stance here. One, because I couldn't get the legs and the waist to cooperate on this one, especially because of the sash on this one. It kind of gives you, the ab crunch is almost non-existent, but also I wanted to give him more heroic proportions where he's standing up a little bit taller to fire his arrow because he's not Cobra the Enemy anymore. Now he is part of the G.I. Joe team, but both figures really, really well done. I will say that the long bow here is better than the compound bow that we have here. And as G.I. Joe has gone on, and you can see a little bit of a warp to it, which kind of sucks, but as G.I. Joe Classified has gone on, they have tried to cut costs in different areas, whether it was packaging at first, and now it seems to be in the weapons, because these weapons are much more malleable and possible to break than these were. Not that these were perfect, but they held up better than these. And this one, I've actually already, the firing scope right here is already almost completely ripped off just trying to get it out of the package, and the bow that's in it, I'm going to have to heat it up and let it sit for a while. And maybe we'll get a chance to do that before final impressions, maybe not, because I'm going to try and get this on the shelf as quickly as I can. Alright, so now we've got everything in the shelf where it's supposed to be. Got Storm Shadow up here with the team. Was able to get a little bit of bend out of that bow. There's still some more that needs to go, but we're just gonna have to focus on that over time. Just to get a quick close-up of him. I do like that he's standing up a little bit straighter now in the shelf for the proportions, and he's not really fully blocking my beach head, which is good. I was worried about that, but with the team here, he's looking very good. I do like the way he stands. I will say I love the sashes and the way he looks, and that's my preferred version of Storm Shadow. But final impressions of it, lasting impressions I should say, not terrible, but there's just something missing because you can't quite get him into the poses you could with the first Storm Shadow. A lot of it might be the sash here. I'm not really certain, but it's a little rougher and a little tougher to get it going. So we were able to get it in place, so it works, and that's my preferred version. There's just still a little lacking, but we can talk about that some more in final thoughts. All right, guys, we're back here with final thoughts on the G.I. Joe Classified Series Storm Shadow version 2. I am not going to try to go through all the different versions and confuse everybody again. I know I do that all the time, but for whatever reason, I feel like I have to, just to point out what that Storm Shadow version is. However, I will say that I got him on the shelf. He looks good. He's got heroic proportions. I did say in the video that there's just something lacking, and I think it's not that the figure is lacking. I think the figure is very well done. I think if you look at any G.I. Joe Classified Series figure, they're going to be well done at this point. What's lacking for me is a little bit of the posability. I wanted to get him into more dynamic poses, maybe not quite as crouched down dynamic as it was with the Cobra version I had, because this is not the bad guy version, for lack of a better term. I wanted him to look more heroic, and I tried to stand him up a little more, which he got there close to it, but there's still something missing in the dynamic. But I think it's because the sash and the belt is so big that you can't really engage the ab crunch. At the end of the day, though, I think this becomes a same conversation as it did with the Retro Classified Stalker. Do you want both versions? The Cobra, this one, oh, actually, and even third version, because there is the G.I. Joe Ninja Force version of this one, which they call Arctic Mission Storm Shadow. So which version do you want? Which is your preferred? Do you need all three? That's entirely up to you. It comes down to your budget, your money, or what are you willing to invest it in, and how many spaces do you really have in your shelves. For me, I only have space for one Storm Shadow. I would do two if I had the Ninja Force one and they were doing more Ninja Force figures, but you know, at the end of the day right now, I'm just going to keep the one that I have that I've just put in here. Is it a recommend for me? I will say yes, it's a recommend. Pretty much any G.I. Joe Classified is going to be. I think I've said that before. However, keep in mind that it depends really and truthfully on what you want on yourself, how much room you have, and how much money you're willing to invest into it. With that being said, thanks for coming and checking out this video. If you enjoyed this or any of our other content on Stayward Network, please like and subscribe. And if you want to check out any of our other channels, you can go find Big Rob on his channel of Big Rob's House of Entertainment and No Chinese Food, Chris Daly on the Fueled by Weird podcast, wherever you find your podcasts, and myself and Hassel you can catch on the Nerdy Man Room Show channel, on the Nerdy Man Room Show, and Hassel on Hassel's Reviews. Thanks, and see you again next time.